Hey guys, welcome to Coding with NJ. So, you are interested in learning how to send text messages to anyone on their phone but not from your own phone, rather through your website, be it through some dedicated page like this one, or you want to automate this process for some activities such as when user tries to log in and as a result an OTP, short for one-time password, has been sent to him on his registered mobile number, or perhaps you want to notify your customer when a sale is on the way or when you have added some new stock. Then you have come to the right place. Here is what we are going to do. We are going to create this front end where you provide the phone number of the person you want the SMS to be sent to, and in this text part you will write the actual SMS contents. Once we have clicked the send SMS button, then a request is going to be sent to a third-party API provider called MessageBird, with whom I already have an account. There, once they have made sure that I, that is the sender of this SMS, is registered with them and it's actually I who want to send this SMS, then they will deliver this SMS to the recipient, but the sender will think that this SMS has come directly from my mobile. So shall we give this a go? So before I give this a go, let me tell you something. This third-party API provider called MessageBird, it doesn't offer its services for free. However, once we create an account with the MessageBird, it tops up our account for 10 free SMS messages. And until our credit consists of only those 10 free SMS messages, we can only send messages to our own mobile, which is registered with MessageBird. So we must have an account created with MessageBird and we must have provided our own phone number. And that is also the reason why I haven't provided any input field for entering the sender's phone number, because only our registered phone number is going to be considered as sender's phone number. But technically we can send message to anyone we like. That's why I have provided this input box where you can enter any recipient's phone number. Okay, now actually send the message. So as I just explained, I can only use my own phone number to send this SMS to. Now write some message. Hello from Coding with NJ. Now let's click on the send SMS button. And I've got this message status which says the actual message, and you heard my SMS beep. That means I have received the message on my mobile. The message that I sent is hello from Coding with NJ. Status is sent from my phone number to this phone number. Now let's go and check if I've actually received this SMS on my phone. And it says this one. Hello from Coding with NJ. These are the first two messages that I sent earlier while testing the API. Okay. Now before we start coding, let me take you to MessageBird website. This is the dashboard of MessageBird website. Here you can see that I have been logged in, and if you notice, my test credit consists of 7 more messages. So basically I have used up 3 of the free SMS messages and I can only send 7 more messages for the testing purpose. So when you registered with MessageBird, you basically need to provide your mobile number, because this is how they will verify that I am a genuine person and genuine user, and this will also help them make me hold accountable for misusing this service. So anything I do through this service, it can be traced back to me. The registration is free, and once you get registered, you need to go to this developer section from where you need to get 2 API keys, which are in the API access section. So there are 2 keys. One is called live API key and other is test API key. When you actually want to send the message, you are going to use this live API key. But while you are testing out and you don't want to run out of your free credit, at that time you should use this test API key. So what this test API key is gonna do, it's going to simulate the actual sending of the message without actually sending the message. Once we get the status that the message has been sent successfully, then we can replace the test API key with the live API key, and then we can actually receive the message on our mobile. So now we are going to start our coding. In the beginning, I'll be using my test API key, and once we are happy with the front end and we successfully receive the message and everything, then I'll replace this test API key with the live API key, and then we'll see that are we able to receive this message again on our phone. So without further ado, let's start coding. As always, we are starting off with an empty folder inside our Visual Studio Code. I usually prefer to have my front end and back end code in separate files, but since it's a very small project and since there aren't any multiple requests between the front end and back end, rather just one request to the third-party API provider, so this time I'm going to create a PHP file and I'm going to include all my front end and back end code in the same folder, in the same file. So let me create sms.php. And let me create a style file for styling. So let's work on our PHP file first. Within this sms.php file, let's start working on the front facing code first, which is our HTML. So let's start with a div. I'm going to name it SMS container. So this div is going to contain the form. And we should also link up our style file as well. Let's create a h1 element. Send SMS online. Now let's create a form. The action is going to be the same file in which we are currently coding, which is sms.php, because our backend logic is going to be defined in the same file. Now we also need method to be post, because since this is a form, it's going to contain the recipient's phone number and the message, and we don't want that data to appear in our URL once the send SMS button has been clicked. So therefore we have to use the post method. This way the form data will be contained in the body of the HTTP request. Now let's create an input field where we will enter the recipient's phone number. So let's give it a name. This one, an ID should be recipient, and we also need a label for this, and this for attribute requires the same thing that we have provided in the ID. So therefore recipient, and the actual text of the label should be recipient's number. Now we need text area for typing our SMS. So the name and ID is going to be the same. Let's give it SMS. And we need label. Write SMS. We need another input field of type submit. The value is going to be send SMS, and let's give it a name. Let me put this h1 inside the form. The reason for putting this h1 inside the form is that I want this form area to disappear once we have sent the message and the recipient have successfully received the message. So that information, the status of the message sent and the other information that we want to show to our user, is going to comprise of another div, and we want that div to appear with its own heading. So therefore this heading, send SMS online, should be inside the form such that it should only appear when the form is visible, and once the form is not visible, we don't see this heading either. Okay, so now outside this form, let's create another div and let's call it response container. Let's create h1. SMS status is the heading. Let's create a paragraph, and for the time being let's put some lorem ipsum text. So eventually I'm going to remove this text and dynamically insert data into it, but that part will come later once we have defined our PHP and we have figured out the flow of this program. But for the time being, let's go and check it out how it currently looks in the browser. Since I'm using PHP extension, therefore I cannot use live server. So let me start PHP's dev server. So let's go there. Okay, so this is how it currently looks. Now we need to bring in CSS styling so that it's more presentable. And since the focus of this tutorial is not the styling, so I'm not going to waste that time. I'm going to bring in the CSS and we will continue from there. But when I upload this code on GitHub, I will include the CSS file. So don't worry for the styling part. So let me bring in the styling so that we can move forward. But before I bring in the styling, if you notice, we can see both of our divs contents in the browser. But the styling is going to set the status of this second div to be none. And this div will be invisible. So let me just bring in the styling. Now I have brought in the styling and let me refresh it and see how it looks. So after the styling, this is how it looks. And if you notice, there is no sign of our second div. Now let's go back and work on the PHP part. Let's go to the top of the file and write some PHP code. So the code that we are going to write here, we want that to be executed only when the form has been submitted. Therefore, we have to put a check if is set $_ post and the actual variable that we want to check is submit. So this submit is the name of the input field, which looks like a submit button on the form. So if that variable, this global variable, if this global variable is set, that means the form has been submitted, and now we should contact MessageBird and request them to send a message on our behalf. But first we need to extract the data from the form. We need to extract the recipient's phone number and the message that has been typed in the text area. So recipient is going to come from post global variables recipient index. Then we need actual SMS, which we can extract through SMS index. Now in order to interact with the MessageBird API provider, we need to install a package. So let me open up another terminal window because in this one our server is running. I'm using Composer require, and the package name is MessageBird / PHP REST API. Okay, now the package has been installed. As you can see, we have a vendor folder and 2 Composer files. So let me bring it down. Now we are ready to create an instance of MessageBird client and an instance of MessageBird's message. So let's start with the MessageBird client, which I'm going to store in the MessageBird variable new / MessageBird client. So here we need to provide the API key, but I forgot to include the auto include, otherwise our program won't be able to recognize this object. So let's go up and require vendor autoload.php. So let me go and get my test API key from the MessageBird. So this is my test API key, show key and copy. Now I'm going to paste it. We need to create another object of type message. So new MessageBird / object message. Even though our PHP is still complaining that it doesn't recognize these 2 classes, but it will work. Now before we actually send the request to MessageBird API with the recipient's phone number and the message, we need to set these attributes in our message object. And since this can raise exceptions, so we are going to put it inside try catch block. So let me define the try catch block first. Okay, now within this try block, we need to set the originator of this SMS message. So message. Now we need to provide the phone number, and I'm going to hard code this phone number because this phone number must match the phone number which is associated with this API key. So it's not like you create an account with MessageBird, but you want the recipient of this SMS to see a different sender. So the number has to match. Therefore, I'm hard coding it. Otherwise, I would have put another field in the form in which the user can type in its phone number. But that phone number has to be the same, which is associated with this account, whose API key we are using over here. Next, we need to provide the recipient's phone number. And since you can send the message to multiple recipients, therefore it's plural recipients, and you need to provide an array over here. So over here, we are going to use this recipient variable because this is where the user wants to send the SMS to. If you like, you can provide multiple phone numbers over here like that, but once you have topped up your credit with the MessageBird. Now we have to provide the message body, which comes from this variable. Now you have to use this first object, MessageBird object, which is subclass messages, and there you call its method called create, and you provide the message to be created. So now this message is going to be created and it's attached with this MessageBird client object. So that's the relationship between this MessageBird client object and the MessageBird's message object. So this create message not only creates the message, but actually it also sends the message to the MessageBird third-party API as well. So this will now send the reply back, which we are going to store in response object. Now this response object is going to consist of many fields, and we are going to display just 3 of those fields in our this second div over here. But before we do that, let's display whatever has been received in this object in the browser, and then we will pick and choose the fields that we are interested in, and then those fields will be inserted over here in this second div. So let's go and give this a try. Our server is already running. Let's provide the recipient's number and hello there. Now let's click on the send SMS. We didn't get anything. Okay, we didn't get anything displayed over here because we haven't actually wrote any code to make that response object appear in the browser. And to do that, what we should do is that we are going to echo, but first we should write pre. This pre HTML tag is going to display whatever it receives next the way it has received, that is pre-formatting. No formatting will be applied. Then we basically want to dump this response object in our browser, and since we want it to be in a readable format, therefore we are going to call print_r instead of echo. And let's see how it goes. So let's go to the browser. Now let's provide recipient's phone number, which at this stage must match with the sender's phone number. Let's write hello there. Click send. Okay, this is the message that we have received with the ID, and there are many other fields. This is the originator. So this is the body. Then over here we have this recipient's phone number and the status. Even though we haven't actually received the message in our mobile, because currently we are using test API key. If we actually want to receive this SMS on our mobile, then we have to replace that test API key with the live API key. We will do that once we are happy with our front end and back end coding. Now the next part is we want to display some information from this response object. So we want to display who sent the message, which if you notice is the direct ancestor of this message response object. Then we are interested in this recipient object, because this recipient object consists of some more fields, and one of them is items. This item consists of an array with the recipient's information, and from this recipient object we are interested in the recipient field and the status field. So let's go back to the code and extract these fields and display in our second div. Okay, now we have got the response. Now let's go back to the second div, and in the paragraph tag, let's remove this lorem ipsum. Let's put PHP tags because we are going to define some PHP logic. So we want this part to be displayed once we have got the response back from the MessageBird. Therefore, we must check if this response object exists. So if it's not null, then this if will return true and the following should happen. But if this response object is null, then this if part won't execute. So when this response object does exist, then the first thing that we want to do is that we want to make the first div, which contains the form, should disappear and the second div should appear. So echo, we need to use style tag. Now within this style tag, we have to access our form HTML element, and we have to set its display property to none. The second thing that we want to do is that we want to set the display property of the second div, which was response container, to be set to block. Next, let me put semicolon. Okay, after making the form disappear and the second div appear, now we need to append the fields that we have selected into this div. So we are interested in the originator field, which is kind of direct child of this object. So echo from, let's make it bold, and it's from response originator. Copy, and I'm going to paste it 3 more times. Now the second should be the recipient, and so if you notice, it's over here at the bottom. And to access this, first of all, we need to access this recipients field, which is an object, and then from that recipients object we will access items field, which is an array with only one element at index 0. So we will use this index 0, which again contains an object. So that object's recipient field contains this value. So therefore response recipients, then items index 0, and that contains recipient. And now since we are using these square brackets, therefore we cannot use it inside the string interpolation, so we are going to cut it. Let's create another variable, put it over here, and now we will display the response over here. So inside the response object, we have another object called recipients, and that recipient object has an array called items. That items index 0 contains another object, and that object's recipient field we are interested in, that we have put over here. So the sender and recipients have been successfully integrated. Now let's extract the message and display over here. And let's go and check how can we extract that message. So the message is over here. It's the direct child of response object. So response body. Now finally the status, which is over here after the recipient field, sent. So that means we need to create another variable. Copy this whole thing, paste, and instead of recipient we are interested in status. So let's replace this whole thing with status variable. So that's it. Now let's go and verify. Again, recipient's number, and let's say hello again. Let's go down. This form should have disappeared, so this is not working, and our SMS status, even though the H1 is visible, but apparently the contents have not been appended in the paragraph. So let's go and figure out what's wrong. So display A is missing. Probably the second mistake is this backslash needs to come at the front. Because of this, the style tag never ended, and therefore this was never printed. recipients, recipients. Copy, replace this one with correct spelling, and R is missing from response. Now let's go and give it another try. Phone number and some random text. Click send. Let's go down. Okay, from to the SMS and the status, we need to bring them down to separate lines. So we need to put BR HTML element at the end of every line. And we don't need these two lines of code, because now we are able to get the response and display it properly as well. From some random text, send. Okay, now we've got everything. The status is slightly to the left, but let's not worry about that. Let's go and replace our test API key with the live key and actually receive the message on the mobile. So I will probably fix this part as well. So let's click on show live API key, copy. Now I'm going to replace this key with the live API key, save and give it a try. Hello with live API key. Click send. So the message takes a while to receive. Now I've got the message. Now let me show you guys. Hello with live API key. So that's the end of our tutorial. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share and comment. Thank you so much.